Well, it's time for our regular gender reveal segment with binary spokeswoman Kirralie Smith, Australia's favourite adult human female. Kirralie, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Miles.
Kirralie, Senator Claire Chandler, great champion of this issue in the Parliament, has revealed that Australian doctors are treating females for testicular disorders. Now, I might have missed something, but since when did females have testicles?
Oh, look, this has just been almost comical trying to explain it to people this week, Lyle. But the fact is that doctors have found a loophole because these girls want to go on cross-sex hormones. So for girls, they want to go on testosterone so that they can appropriate being a man. And there's very strict rules and regulations about who can be issued testosterone in Australia. And one of those rules is you must have a testicular disorder to be able to go on it. So what greater disorder could you have than actually not having testicles and not having a system that supports testicles in the first place? So Claire Chandler has revealed to the Australian Senate there are thousands of girls and women on this very dangerous drug that has very dangerous side effects, all because these doctors have found a loophole for taxpayers, for you and I, to foot the bill and to put these girls on an irreversible pathway to catastrophic harm that won't resolve their gender incongruence and that will leave them with male pattern baldness, certain types of cancers, high blood pressure and other things. So it's just disgraceful. You know, we can have a laugh, but it is a really serious issue, and those doctors, in my opinion, should all be expelled, and the laws that have allowed it need to be changed.
Yep, the politicians that are enabling this should also be expelled by the voters. Wake up, people, at the next elections. Kirralie, except for Senator Claire Chandler, of course. Kirralie, our friend Councillor Louise Elliott from Hobart has finally received an apology from the council after she was denied a booking on a City Hall meeting room. I spoke to Louise Elliott a couple of weeks ago on the show. Louise wanted to hold a meeting to discuss the issues we're talking about today. She had Catherine Deeves from Sydney and Moira Deeming from the Victorian Parliament. The CEO, Michael Stretton, said, and it's worth putting this up on the screen, this was his apology. On behalf of the council, I apologise for any stress, anxiety, frustration, embarrassment and inconvenience caused by the conduct that has been outlined in this report, the report that was tabled last week in Hobart City Council. Kirralie, these people have egg on their faces, don't they?
Yeah, look, this is a magnificent win for Louise and for all of us in this space. She has been tenacious, resilient, persistent, because she's done nothing wrong. And so she has continually spoken the truth and pursued the freedom of information and getting to the bottom of what actually happened. And the council is left with egg on its face. Again, heads should roll because they have discriminated against her. They admitted they lied to her about the availability of that town hall. You know, it's really fraudulent, horrendous practices that, you know, if the shoe was on the other foot, you know, there'd be no end of persecution going on. But Louise has conducted herself with integrity, with discipline in this matter, and she has had a great victory that must be celebrated, and it should serve as an inspiration to every single one of us to not relent, to keep going, to push for that truth, to push for the exposure of the tactics of the left who lie and deceive and, you know, smear us all the time because they'll be found false and they will have to apologise and they will have to compensate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just shows, as you say, the power of persistence. This has been well over a year in the making. I thought it was interesting, Kirralie, that, and I read this on the Binary blog, but Michael Stretton, the CEO, actually presided over the council meeting that delivered the apology. Now, I served 6.5 years on a local council in my hometown of Toowoomba City. Never did I see the CEO presiding over a meeting of elected councillors. Where was the mayor? I mean, this is cowardice in the extreme because the mayor was the one who actually blocked the meeting booking in the first place.
Well, to be a fly on the wall in some of those backroom meetings, I think, Lyle, because I think they are severely embarrassed. There would have to be reprimands. There would have to be very dodgy conversations going on. And in this case, it was a special meeting of the council. It's a pretty full-on thing that's happened here, and so they've had to, you know, bring in the big gun to do this. And
never should an unelected person, a paid staff member of the council, be presiding over elected people. You know, again, this just shows how crazy and how embarrassed they were that the mayor wouldn't even front this. Kirralie, speaking of terrible politicians, the Victorian Government has released an appalling advertisement aimed at gaslighting all of us into accepting, again, this lie that men can be women. I mean, Goebbels would be proud of this level of propaganda. Let's take a look. Now, Kirralie, that's just extraordinary. Now, we all want to have an impulse to be kind to any fellow human, regardless of whatever they might be going through or how they might wish to identify. That is not at issue here. But there's something more sinister than just encouraging people to be kind at play here, isn't there?
Oh, look, this is propaganda in the extreme. It is gaslighting, as you said, into all of us accepting the lie that someone can change their sex. And let's face it, a lot of men, particularly middle-aged men who identify as women, do so because they have pornography addictions and they have a sexual fetish that they want to impose on the public. And this ad is telling women to disregard their own safety, to disregard their feelings, their boundaries. We talked about this before, Lyle. A few years ago, we're all women, me too, and we have to protect our boundaries and speak up. And now we're being told to shut up, be quiet, remain, just be submissive and allow this oppression to continue. And it is absolutely disgusting. But the good news is that once that ad went to air and once that ad was put on YouTube, they were absolutely slammed by men and women around the country for their blatant and obvious attempts to bully us and intimidate us into accepting something that is just unacceptable.
And Kirralie, I understand the Victorian Government disabled the comments on its YouTube channel where that ad was placed.
Yeah, correct. Like, how democratic is that? They don't want to hear from the people because they know that we won't accept it. They will continue to use taxpayer dollars to shove this propaganda down our throat. But, again, as you said, the best way we can handle that is to kick them out at the next election. But this is really, it shows the divide between the elites in government and the general public. It couldn't be further apart, Lyle. People do not want this. And as you said, this isn't about being unkind, because actually lying and deceiving people is unkind. Speaking the truth and helping people to accept their reality, that is what is kind.
Yeah, and in a very sinister way, that ad finishes with, a male, clearly a male with a large body size, being invited to play against young women in a contact sport. This is actually dangerous. So it uses a soft sell about, appealing to the better angels of our nature to be kind to people, then to really allow something that's going to cause harm and even injury and damage to the lives of young women. And of course, unfairness in their sport, as you and I talk about here almost every week. Kirralie, the news comes thick and fast in this space. That's why we talk about this stuff every week. But again, on the Binary blog, you're reporting this week in South Australia, children as young as 3 are being treated in their LGBTIQA plus child gender clinics. What on earth is going on?
Oh, I can't even. With this one, it just brings me to tears, Lyle, that there are 3-year-olds, that there are families. And let's face it, that's on the parents, because 3-year-olds live in the world of imagination. That's how they grow. That's how they play. That's how they develop. And they will pretend to be dogs. They'll pretend to be horses. They'll pretend to be unicorns, which don't even exist. But no, never do we affirm those fantasies. And yet these parents have been given a legitimate way to affirm the fantasy that a child is the opposite sex. They can never be the opposite sex. They are not the opposite sex. They are living in a world of imagination. And I don't know, maybe we need some really good parenting compulsory courses or something, Lyle, because this is insane. But what is more insane is that these gender clinics are accepting them and making provision for them. And that is criminal behaviour. It is child abuse. And there's nowhere on this earth that can be acceptable or supported by science in any way, shape or form.
No, that's right. Look, it just goes, it's beyond belief. And I'd encourage people to circle back to the interview that I had the privilege of doing last week with Chloe Cole, who at 12, not 3, but 12, started to think she was a boy trapped in the wrong body. That led to catastrophic consequences. How much more catastrophic at the age of 3? Kirralie, thanks again for being with us for this segment. It's so important we keep talking about these issues because our politicians are doing nothing, and we've got to keep raising awareness. So thanks again, Kirralie, and we'll look forward to chatting again next week.
Thanks for having me, Lyle.